iPhone Nicole, so I'm assuming that's Nicole Cottle.
Yep, I'm on.
Oh, hi, Nicole. I didn't see you on there. Apologize.
We are just missing representatives from Centerville, Orem. Well, actually, Brent Whitey is on roll.
I think Brand's with Orem. Is that correct?
He's with Orem. He's not an official voting member, though, just attending on their behalf. And then Lyndon. We are missing Lyndon.
Hey, we are streaming, so we're good to go.
Okay, well, let's jump into the meeting then. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join our call this morning. I'd like to express appreciation to the staff and acknowledge each one of you. Thanks for all the good work that you do. And also, Ren, good to have you with us this morning down in Orem. Hope everything's well there. And also like to acknowledge Jarrett. You bet. Jarrett from Santa Clara. Thanks for joining us this morning. And we have Nate from Midvale and Derek from Brigham City, and then our good friend Laura Lewis. Laura, it's good to have you on this morning with us as well. And I think Ben is our auditor, who's going to speak to us a little bit later on one of the items. So hope I haven't missed anybody, but thanks again for joining this morning. The first item was welcome and introductions. I think we're done there. The next item is approval of minutes. The minutes from the December 12th, 2022 meeting. So I'd be happy to entertain a motion to approve those or amend those as needed.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Is there a second?
I'll second. Jason Sant.
Okay, thank you, Jason. There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented from the December 12th, 2022 meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, very good. Thank you. Appears to be unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the fiscal year 2022 financial audit. And I believe that Jason, our finance director, is CFO, is going to present some information on that. So good morning, Jason.
Morning. Thank you, Alex. Let's see here, just quickly, I'll share my screen. Hopefully you're all seeing that. We have our fiscal year audit for 2022 has been completed. I have a brief presentation just to go over a few highlights and a few things that I think would be good to discuss.
I'm not seeing the screen share. Someone else. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you, Roger. Here's some of the highlights that we had for last year. Our average monthly recurring revenue increased by almost 25% from 1.8 to 2.3 million dollars per month. That's the average amount that we were receiving by the end of last fiscal year. The number of subscribers on the UIA/Utopia, so this is for both networks together, increased by 19%. Operating revenue also increased by 25%, pretty consistent with monthly revenue. If you look there from 22 to 28 million. That's for the entire year. We added 3 city partnerships. The 3 city partnerships were Syracuse, Santa Clara, and Cedar Hills. So that's the 3 that are discussed here. We've had 1 since then, which is West Haven, but that's in the next fiscal year. We added $55 million to fixed assets that were built during the year. So we definitely had an aggressive build year going on also. And cash reserves, we had pretty high cash reserves at the end of last year. They were adequate to cover 2.5 years of operating expense less depreciation. One of the reasons I wanted to bring that up, if you look at how we budgeted this year, we have budgeted a significant cash disbursements going to cities. That number we're expecting to decrease significantly in the next year. So that's one of the things we are expecting to go down. Here's a 4-year comparison of our balance sheet. As you can see, assets and liabilities are increasing fairly quickly here. And that's a result of our build out and a result of the city partnerships that we're having here at Utopia, along with the finishing of the build out, which happened last year to all of the cities. So, well, and so that's what's driven our balance sheet increase. Net position is getting very, very close to positive again, which will be a very, very good thing for Utopia. And we're hoping and expecting that will happen in the next fiscal year. Here's our statement of changes in revenues, expenses, and net position. Pretty consistent, most of what we talked about before. You'll notice there is a line down here, member city payments. This line hasn't shown anything in the past because all that has been paid in past years pretty much was a repayment of operating assessments that have been paid in prior years by member cities. In the future, any money coming out of UIA, those operating assessments have 100% been paid off. In the future, everything will be showing up on this line. So we're expecting $4 million to show up on this line next year. So that's kind of what we're expecting there. And if you look over the last 2 years, we've had an increase in net position in UIA, which is very good. The last thing I wanted to show everybody, this is unaudited, but I kind of wanted to do a stress case just so we could kind of understand kind of what we've looked at least the last couple of years at Utopia. And the stress case I'm looking at is if we had no build going on at Utopia and just paid for keeping up with what we have to some degree for paying for employees and paying for bond interest and principal, what would it look like? This doesn't include a refresh of the network, which we do need in some areas at times. At times we do have bigger refreshes that have to happen to keep us current with speeds and everything we need to for operations, but it does include some maintenance on the system. What I wanted to show is that if you look at a stress case cash flow for the last couple of years, we would have had cash flow coming in to UIA. This cash flow doesn't include any payments to cities. And a lot of it is due to, if you look at bond payments, bond principal and interest payments, you'll notice they're increasing fairly quickly. We have a capitalized interest period of time of 3 years on most of our bonds where we don't make bond payments. So a lot of the money that we do, the excess money we have coming in right now is because we build out so quickly and get higher take rates than what we project on the areas that we've gone into. Some of that will be eaten into over time as bond payments need to be made for the first time on bonds. But at the same time, that will be offset by any revenue growth that we have going on. So obviously what we're hoping for is to get more payments back to the cities over time. That's what we're hoping for, but that will depend on how we're able to grow how we're able to grow revenue as compared to when the bond payments come on. That's all I had for the presentation. Does anybody have any questions before I turn the time over to our auditors? If not,
Jason, this is Laura. I have a question related to the reduction in cash balances carry forward. Once that the payments have been made, what will remain there? And my preference would be to have it discussed in terms of number of days cash on hand.
You're talking about on the first slide.
Yes.
Where we talked about having 2.5 years cash on hand right now.
That's correct.
Are you asking what we're projecting the target will be for the end of the next fiscal year?
Yes, sir.
Let me think about this. I'm expecting it to be I'm expecting it to be over a year.
Okay, great.
And I'm hoping that's good enough for what the bondholders are wanting.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. I mean, when, it's because we're always sort of charting new territory in your traditional utilities, water, sewer, 360 days is platinum standard. So I've always kind of, and I have many, city clients who don't have that still have, excellent ratings. So in my mind, that's a good target.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there is a possibility we could be slightly over, slightly under now that I think about
Right.
it here. But if I'm looking at it, I think we're probably looking at something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think as we meet with Fitch, we'll want to have a, pretty detailed discussion about that.
Okay. I will be ready. I've been working on that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, then I'll turn the time over to Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I don't have anything to present. I'm just going to go over our usual findings and stuff for the audit. So, and we appreciate the opportunity we've had to audit Utopia and UIA throughout these, I don't know how many years we've been doing it, but we've always had a good relationship. That didn't change with Jason. It was great working with him, working with the staff, and we're happy to report our findings here to the board. And we report to you because we consider you to be those charged with governance and responsible with overseeing the financial reporting process. And just a reminder that an audit doesn't relieve governance or management of their responsibilities. So we audited UIA's financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2022. And we issued our opinion, which if you have a copy of the financials, it's on page 1 of the financials. And we designed the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and it's designed to obtain reasonable rather than absolute assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. It's in our second paragraph lists our opinion that the financial statements present fairly the financial position of UIA, which means it's a clean opinion. We didn't have any issues with the audit of the financials. And so in addition to that opinion, we also looked at UIA's internal controls, the cash receiving process, cash disbursements, payroll, and the financial close. So, and we walked through transactions. We considered internal controls. We audited the financial statements. We did this not for the purpose of expressing an opinion, but just to gain an understanding. But we didn't see any issues that would require us to report that. So there are no issues in the internal controls opinion either. And then the last opinion we issued, which these are in the supplemental report if you're looking, and the last report is on state compliance. It's page 3 of that report. And there was one finding as with what we looked at in state compliance, and that was just with the state auditor wants management to present this fraud risk assessment each year to the board. And it looks like with Laurie leaving and Jason coming in April, May area, that kind of got lost in the shuffle. So, but the state auditor requires a report that, so it doesn't have any effect on the financial statements or anything like that. And then just some other stuff we need to go over. The significant accounting policies and the estimates used by UIA are included in note 1. UIA has a reliable accounting system that produces reliable financial information and has sound accounting policies that haven't changed during the fiscal year, and the disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. And as I mentioned before, we didn't have any issues with Jason or the staff in performing the audit. Another thing we looked at is fraud. And to do this, we usually ask fraud questions. We consider fraud as we audit financial statements, and we do additional analysis and analytical work. And we didn't have any issues with fraud that we noted during the audit. So that's all I have. Is there any questions for me on this, on the audit? Okay.
Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say we appreciate the opportunity we've had to audit UIA again this year. It's great to work with Jason.
Thank you. We appreciate your good work as usual and your thoroughness. And attention to detail with which you perform the audit.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Very good. I suspect, Ben, it's okay that if board members, as we go forward, as they read the audit and become more familiar with it, perhaps, if they have questions, they can certainly reach out to you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Or certainly staff, obviously, as well. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So this was just a presentation of the audit. We don't need to accept it. Is that correct, Roger?
That's correct.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you. Let's go on to the next item, which is the election of UIA board officers for the new year, as those of you that have been on the board for some time recognize, or even a short time, that this is the annual effort at the beginning of the year to elect the officers that provide direction to the staff and work with the staff. So I think currently there, Roger or Krista, you please correct me if I misstate this, but my understanding and recollection is that I'm currently serving as the chair. From Layton, the first vice chair position is vacant. The second vice chair position is being held by Mr. Brant Hansen, city manager in Centerville. The third vice chair, excuse me, is vacant. That was previously held by Mr. Jamie Davidson in Orem. So those are the current vice chairs, and everyone else is board member. So is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. If anyone wants to reference that, we do have it in the board packet, just listing the positions of board members. But that's right. And we had, so Brigham City had the first vice chair and Orem had the third vice chair, just as far as the city holding it, but it's not really by city, it's by person, which is why there's a vacancy, even if the representative for that city changes, they lose that spot until the next election.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Roger. So I'll be happy to entertain any nominations. We can nominate a slate up to cover all the positions, or we can do it individually, whatever you prefer as the presenter. So are there any members of the board that would like to present nominations for the election of officers?
I saw Derek click off his button, but I'll jump in. Maybe my button click was faster. I'm not sure. I would make a motion that we keep the current roster, with the exception that, and not having spoken to these two before, I'll just say sorry about that, but I'm going to go for it anyway. That we have, that I nominate Derek Euler for the first vacant position and Brenda Moore for the fourth, the one that was currently held by Orem. And then the remainder would stay the same. So Alex, you as the chair, and I don't have it right in front of me, but our current third vice chair as well. That's my motion.
Okay, I'll just restate that. Thank you, Nicole. So chair would continue to be myself from Layton. First vice chair would be Derek Hoyer from Brigham City. Second vice chair would continue to be Brant Hansen from Centerville, and the third vice chair would be Brenda Moore from Murray. That's correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
But I can second it, even though I don't want to second myself as the first vice chair.
Okay. We appreciate that, Derek, but we're not very sympathetic. But thank you for the second. So there's a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call vote. Nate Rockwood from Midvale.
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
say that with more enthusiasm, Brenda. It's good to have you on. Nicole,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Jason Sant.
Yes,
Brent, are you non-voting, did you say? Are you voting today?
I don't think I'm official yet. My question is, at some point, if I can get some ideas on exactly the exact steps to become an official member, that would be great.
I'll send you information.
Yes, we'll get that right to you. It's good to have you involved.
Mayor Lundberg is the,
Yes, Mayor Lundberg, I apologize, Mayor, from Linden.
Yes, I.
Okay, thank you. And then Leighton is an aye. Have I missed anybody?
no,
Okay, thank you. Appears to be unanimous. Very good, thank you. We appreciate your willingness to serve, continue serving or begin serving. The next item is a presentation or discussion rather regarding UIA's fraud risk assessment. I think all of us are aware of that because of our involvement with cities. Is a requirement that the state auditor put in place several years ago, and it applies to Utopia as well, as an intergovernmental agency. So Jason, are you presenting the background on that?
Yes, I am. And I'll share my screen really quick. Okay. Obviously you saw I had one write up on the audit. It was for not presenting this. So it is being presented now, and you will see it again before the end of this calendar year again. Right now, if you look at the fraud risk assessment, when I looked at it, we're in the low category. The categories go from they're very low, low, moderate, high, very high, with very low being the best, very high being the worst. What it would take to move us from very low to, or from low to very low, would be approving a couple of policies that, and you know, some of these policies, like we have a credit purchasing card policy, it's just not board approved. I did present it to the board when we were going over the procurement policy. You did see that it was in our purchasing policy. If we were to move that, that would give us 5 more points. If we were to make all employees and all of the boards sign a statement of ethical behavior, that would be 20 points. If we were to do a couple of these things, we would go from low to very low. So that's where we are right now. Any questions from the board?
Jason, this is Alex. I would just make a suggestion. I think based on, I think, again, where all of us that are involved with cities are familiar with this process, I would encourage the staff to move forward and make those minor adjustments necessary, not necessarily just to get the lower score or the better score, but because those are things we're already doing. And I think that Utopia as an organization and the staff certainly already have a commitment, demonstrated commitment to integrity and in the approach and to abide by the rules. And the other one with regard to the credit card policy, as you said, that's already in place and functioning. It'd be a simple thing to bring it before the board and get it approved and locked in. That's just my thought. Any questions or concerns with that, or any other further comments?
No, this is Mayor Lundberg. I agree. That's pretty much a standard thing we do anyway. So happy to work along with that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I'll make sure we have some progress this year on that.
Yeah, the fraud hotline is really easy. Just put a link on the website to the state one and call it a day.
Oh, thank you for
That's
that
all we
advice.
do, because we don't have the staff to really function a fraud hotline, but the state does. So.
Okay.
Yes, good catch. Thank you, Brenda. Any other comments or suggestions from any members of the board? Any concerns? Okay. Very good. Thank you, Jason. The next item, item 6, is a UIA financial update. Again, Jason, you're up.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. I'll share my screen once again here. Probably didn't need to take it off. Here's our update. If we looking through December 30th or 31st, 2022. Looking at operating results here, I've changed this a little bit, the format on here, to show a percentage difference from the prior year and a percentage difference from where we project to be at the end of the year. As you'll notice, revenues are significantly higher than last year. You kind of have to throw out miscellaneous operating revenue there. That miscellaneous operating revenue ends up being materials that we are selling to Bozeman, Montana, or Idaho Falls at the same cost as what we purchased them. That's to facilitate the build out in those two partner cities on Utopia, but UIA has the inventory and ends up selling it to them. Other than that, we are seeing an increase in revenue in transport. And we've seen if you look out to the side, we are showing that we're a little bit low on residential and commercial transport. We're projecting to be about 10 and 11% lower than what the budget is. This, we do expect, as we go through the year, every month we have a significantly higher revenue than we did the month before. So we do expect this to lag. My best guess is we're going to be very close to these numbers at the end of the year. We are projecting, I would say we're projecting on budget. That's what I would say we're projecting. But as our revenue increases, like our revenue in July of 2022 will be a lot less than I mean, if you look at last year, it would be 25% less than our revenue in June of 2023. So we're expecting some very, very big increases the second half of the year to make up for that. And the expenses, with the exception of, we did have a large purchase in other of some addresses, some internet addresses that we need to facilitate business to our customers. We're still underneath budget for the whole year there, and we're expecting that one to taper off a little bit toward the end of the year. The professional services, that's mostly the sales that we have going towards of what we're selling to Idaho Falls and to Bozeman, Montana. So we think we're going to be pretty close coming in on budget for the end of this year. As far as our financial charts go, recurring revenue is getting very, very close to between Utopia and UIA is getting very, very close to $3.5 million every month. So we're seeing very good revenue growth. UIA standalone is getting close there to the 3 million per month mark. And if we look at revenue versus bond issuance, this red line here that you see at the top, the little teeny red line, that's including West Haven. Even with the inclusion of the West Haven bonds, the difference between the recurring monthly revenue and the bond payments is at a near record level for UIA right now. So everything's still looking good here and consistent with what we saw in the prior year. I thought I heard somebody trying to talk. No? Any questions?
I was on mute, but I was thinking that's all music to my ears, Jason.
Okay.
I remember being really excited when we hit 1 million of recurring revenue in a month. So we've come a long ways. It's kind of fun to see these charts.
So Jason or Kim, this may be a question that could have waited till the next item, but they're related, at least in my mind. But what are we seeing in terms of number of subscribers month over month this year versus last year, where the pandemic was kind of top of mind and it seemed like the demand was really strong? Is that my understanding is that's tapered off a little bit, but how much and what do we expect going forward there?
It is tapering off a little bit, but it's still consistent, and we are still higher than we were pre-pandemic. So we are seeing that, and it just kind of ebbs and flows right now because of releases, of footprint releases. So in the winter, we didn't have a lot. We're going to see a lot coming up in the next few months as Pleasant Grove and Syracuse keep releasing more and more. So I would expect this spring and summer to have some great results, but we have seen the taper, but it is still higher than we were seeing pre-pandemic.
Okay. Are all of the, I expect they are based on the last report that Roger sent out, but are all of the new contract cities, new partners, all doing as well as predicted, if not better, in terms of their take rates and progress?
Yeah, we chart them out individually, and really they need to hit a revenue requirement. So some cities get a little bit nervous and they say, hey, we're at 20% and we're supposed to be at 30 or something like that. Clearfield would be an example of that, but we're actually trending really well there. So when we actually consider the time it takes to build and market, grow the customers on there, and that we've given ourselves, that capitalized interest period, when we look at them from a trend perspective, we're still good. So even with like Clearfield, for example, we don't expect there's ever going to be a shortfall there, as it looks like it's in great shape. And I bring up Clearfield because that's probably the one where we've done, I don't want to say the worst, it's good. It's where we've done the least best. We had a little bit of more competition on the low end with low cost DSL offerings and things like that people were sticking with. But even with that, we're looking to be successful there without any shortfall hitting the city. And the other ones are all far better than that. I mean, if you go to the first one, that was Morgan. I mean, we're more than double the take rate in revenue we expected to need to cover that debt payment. Obviously, we've had to spend a lot more money than expected because we have a lot of additional installations beyond what was bonded for, but that's fine. UIA is in the business of financing, the growth and expansion of this stuff, and we do the general purpose bonds. We're able to pay for those installations, but then there's excess revenue that comes from those. So it's a good problem to have when we have more installations than what we bonded for. So yeah, thumbs up on all of them so far.
So one more question, and I'll try to be quiet for a minute, but in as much as at least I think our history would demonstrate that one of the keys to success in the communities is the support of the local government bodies, governing bodies and staff and so forth, in the way that the network is talked about and framed and presented. In any of the new, or all of those things well, if that makes sense, in all of the partner cities? Has been any dynamics, and you don't need to speak to them specifically, but just kind of a yes or no, but I assume that all of those, we assume they're all continuing to be strong and supportive, and that's part of the secret for the success that's taking place.
Correct. And I haven't, Roger, no, I was going to say that I think from what I am seeing, that there's a lot of city support throughout the network. So we are very much appreciative of the support that we've had from not only the board members, but also the city staff out there.
And I'm just wondering if you're bringing that up because there's more customers in Layton than any other city. So you were just trying to give yourself credit. I'm just kidding, Alex, but no, it does help a lot. And we've got really great support. So in these new cities where we, post our updates where, hey, here's new areas, you can get service and go get signed up. We often see the cities jumping right in on that, saying, yes, this is great, please sign up for the system. And so it's been good in all of the networks in these partner cities, and we really appreciate that. And there's a couple that are waiting patiently. We're like, we're with you, Santa Clara, Cedar Hills, we're making really good progress on those. We're really excited to be doing, announcements for availability and working with the cities on those. But right now, there hasn't been any yet to jump on, but it's coming shortly. So appreciate that. And all the existing member cities, even though we're fully built out, we never stop the work, and we really, appreciate the support we do get from the cities to letting us put up banners, to continuing to promote it. with your newsletters, social media posts, things like that. They all do help significantly to drive the take rates up. Obviously, that helps all of us keep the costs down. We have raised our rates. So as we're able to continue to grow and do well, all cities can benefit from continuing to have a low price structure for that.
Okay, thank you, Roger and Kim. Are there questions of the board, any other members of the board regarding the financial presentation? Okay. Thank you, Jason and Kim and Roger. Let's go to the next item, which is a network update. And Roger will be presenting that information.
So thanks. I just wanted to point out a few things. We did share, emailed out the subscriber report, but I just want to do a couple of highlights on that. Let me pull that up here. So a couple of milestones we've hit recently. It's been an exciting time for Utopia. We did wrap up the last areas of Orem, which does mean we are officially done with the build out of the original city network. We were kind of done, but we just had some permits and redesign issues here and there that held us from that final check of being done. So I was excited to get that done. We then also hit the 50,000 subscriber count threshold. Was an exciting time for us. This last report, you can see we're already up at 52,300. We're in mid-February, so we're probably getting real close to 53,000 by now. We net growth anywhere from about 600 to 800 a month, at least over the last few months. Just to give you an idea of that pace of growth. Our take rates grow. If you see any of these that dip down a little bit, we were a little concerned. We saw, Linden dip down last month and then it popped back up. From a subscriber number perspective, we're more now than we were 2 months ago. So we are still growing in our highest take rate areas. Sometimes it fluctuates from new development. We'll put in some homes here and there, and that'll decrease our take rate, even though it doesn't decrease our subscriber rate. Things are just getting started in Pleasant Grove and Syracuse. So these take rate percentages don't mean a lot, but we did add the Pleasant Grove charts, and we'll add Syracuse in probably on next month's report. But you see our subscriber growth is popping in pretty quickly. Another item of interest I wanted to point out is that the Utah Education and Telehealth Network recently did their awards for this year. We received, I don't think it was quite 90, I think it was 88 awards for schools, libraries, all the entities that contract through UETN's process. That's more than any other provider in the state, except for Lumen's, which is CenturyLink. They do have obviously a lot more coverage. They have so many more cities than we do. So I think we actually did very, very well. We're very happy with that result. In some ways, we just feel like it's a failure if we're not the very best option for schools. So we work hard to make sure that UETN is happy with us. We are competitive from a pricing perspective. They don't give us any preference other than just price. And so in some quality, but nothing to do with us being a city or public entity. So we're pretty happy with that. That'll be part of what goes out of Utopia. If you're familiar with the refinance we did over there, that did bring some savings. And so that's one of the ways we can use that money in building out to these schools, which do create new revenues for Utopia. It's a great use of that money. So those are just a couple of the highlights, and things continue to go very well. And then one other that I had was, we've got a lot of board members who were curious about this, and that was that Bountiful City issued an RFP for a fiber to the home partner. They did ask for a very specific structure. It was a little different than the typical UIA finance. It was more of a city-owned model, as us as the partner. So it looks a lot more like what we've done in Idaho Falls and Bozeman. And we did get awarded essentially. They decided to recommend that our proposal to their city council. So we're in negotiations on that contract. They essentially still need to finance it and figure out kind of the financial side. It's on their side of the fence to do that. But in that, it's very likely we end up being their construction contractor and the operational partner for the project. And so then that would be like another Idaho Falls. If you do pay or look into that model, it's actually very good for us. In many ways, it's favorable. But if you look at just subscriber growth charts, if you see by city, you see Idaho Falls is very quickly becoming our third largest city by subscriber numbers. And yet we didn't spend any money. That's not our debt. So to some extent, it's all upside. You know, with the UIA partnership financing, we're kind of a co-investor in that. It's our debt, and we invest in those networks. But these Idaho Falls types partnerships are all good and none of the bad, essentially. And so that's becoming a pretty significant project. Bozeman is a similar size city of Idaho Falls, so we'll expect their line to do similarly. And then Bountiful will be a nice add-on to that as well. So those fall on the Utopia side of things because there's no debt issuance by UIA, but obviously it's all good for all of us if we do good things in Utopia. That does help with UIA and vice versa. So anyway, just a couple of network updates. We're excited about things obviously going very well. And we don't see any reason for that to not continue. Demand keeps going up. Our competitors keep raising their prices. Our competitors are increasing their speeds, but we do have much better speeds and reliability. So even with big announcements for speed upgrades and promotions and all of that, we are still not seeing any decrease of customers in any of our city projects. It's all just continuing to add customers everywhere. So we're continuing to have the success from that, and we're excited for the future. So that's my update. Any questions? I do send out a monthly report, and I did get it out before this board meeting a few days ago. If you haven't seen that, please email me and I'll make sure you get a copy to get on our list for those reports. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Any questions? Roger, something I think might be valuable is particularly for those members who are newer, board members, as well as maybe newly elected officials in the communities, or recently elected, as it were. But I think there may be a propensity on the part of some to limit their view of the reach of Utopia and UIA to just residences and businesses in the community, without really a clear understanding or comprehensive understanding of the reach in public education, like you're talking about earlier, and in institutions, institutional entities as well. And I wonder if at some time, without a lot of work, I think you're already capturing the data. Might be interesting to share some actual numbers around how many schools, for example, in the state of Utah, do we provide service to? How many institutions, whether they be government, higher education, whether they be religious institutions, et cetera, I think, and then large companies that are in areas other than the city footprints that people may think that's where we're providing service to. I mean, really the number is staggering, and the penetration of Utopia in the fabric, the technology fabric of the state, if I can say that, if that makes any sense, is really significant. And I think there are some people who still view us as a kind of a little mom and pop that are running to a house here and a business there. But this thing is a going concern, and its reach and its scale is significant, and the contribution it's making to the economy and to employment and a whole host of things is really significant. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I think that might be interesting to receive, and particularly again for community leaders to be able to have a broader understanding and perspective of what this thing really has become with everybody's help. I mean, this hasn't happened in a corner and hasn't happened easily, but it's a significant thing, very good thing. All of us, I think, all should be proud of participating in it because it's blessing and benefiting our communities and the state.
Yeah, so we could probably put together some sort of a highlight, you know, some slides or a flyer or something, just kind of promote that. But you're absolutely right. It's, you know, this was kind of started, we were just doing fiber to the home in our cities. And it's like, well, this isn't just fiber to the home. This is fiber to the businesses, fiber to the schools, fiber to the everything. And then it was a number of years ago when we decided, you know, we really couldn't get into those opportunities as well as we could unless we served all of them. Meaning, you know, we needed to address an entire school district, or we needed to address, you know, the other locations for those businesses and getting into the data centers and things like that. So, you know, we made a very big effort to expand the reach of the network outside of the member cities to enable the opportunities in the cities, if that makes sense. But then that's kind of spiraled in the sense that we now have fiber in, I think it's over 55 cities. So while it's 23 fiber to the home projects, including the out-of-state ones, it's a lot more cities that benefit in a sense of just the middle mile, where we have customers, and those may be schools. We have a lot of the tech sector, so the big businesses and technology companies that use our network. We are the fiber backbone for the state of Utah now. I mean, we used to have not the best relationship with the state of Utah, and now the state of Utah does use us for their data centers and other locations. Many of the counties are using us as their preferred provider, and so we have a lot of governmental and business things that we are supporting with this network. We largely do it for financial reasons, but we do also for altruistic. We can do both, right? So we are very proud of the overall benefit that the state receives. You know, the companies, governmental, everybody benefits from this infrastructure. So putting that together is something I think would be valuable. We got to be a little sensitive that businesses seem very touchy about people knowing who they are on. So there's a little bit of confidential information out there usually on the business side, but we can certainly talk to it and kind of bring some attention, and we'd love for you guys to have that material to go back to your councils to talk about the value of what we've done. So it's a great suggestion.
Yeah, thank you, Regiment. Like you said, I don't think we need names as much as numbers, just again to understand the scale and the reach and impact of this little organization. It was prophesied that it would be dead a long time ago. So anyway, any other questions regarding, or from the board regarding the network update? Okay, thank you. Are there any other items of concern or questions that any member of the board would like to raise that wasn't specifically on the agenda before we adjourn, at least to bring it to our attention or staff's attention? Well, very good. I've already said too much as usual today, but I was thinking earlier when we were talking about the success in the communities. It's interesting, and from experience, most of us in cities, we from time to time may find ourselves competing against our neighbor cities for business or jobs or what have you. I mean, there's a little bit of competition and bias toward our own communities, but I think this organization has over time proven itself to be fairly unique, because I don't think there's any of that that feeling or bias that exists. It's those of us who've been blessed to have the infrastructure appreciate it and are eager to share it with our neighbors. And the growth, you know, Santa Clara and all the other cities you've talked about are a perfect example of that. Once in a while, I get contacted by people inquiring about our comfort level with Utopia and kind of the background and how to get in it and what do we think about it and so forth. And when I tell them that as a board, our desire is to share it across the state to benefit and help all the communities, they're kind of quizzical about that and think, well, why would you do that? Why would you keep it to yourself? And I said, one of the principles this thing was founded on was that. It wasn't on competition with our neighbors, it was on lifting everybody and benefiting them. And so it's, again, I know you all know that, but it's privileged to be associated with such good people. I think that's one of the keys to our success is the quality of the people that are involved in it and have been over the years. So thanks to each one of you who want to contribute and add, both as elected officials and as staff and appointed officials in the communities, because it certainly makes a difference. And a tip of the hat to the great staff we have also that do all the heavy lifting. So anyway, best to all of you, and appreciate the privilege to interact with you. So with that, is there anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Alex, I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll
thank you,
second
Derek.
it.
Thank you, Brenda. Second, all in favor of the motion to adjourn? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Everybody be safe and have a great day. Thanks again for joining.